Otherworldly Companions. Tensura XORV, by Liv. Rimuru's POV. It's been a long, yet short period of time for us. Kim Dokja has given me more troubles from time to time, but we ended up solving them one by one. And after solving the other, another problem comes up. And that's why I'm facing the Tyrant King right now, along with this chaos he started. What a time skip it is. Brought to you by your kind, cute and friendly neighboring slime. I dodged the attack from the Tyrant King's three-wheeled rings by dodging the first, then hitting the second and third using my sword. The first one passed by, while the second and third ones got deflected. Then the first one rotated and killed many people on its way, then it goes back to attack my back. But I turned around and faced it, using my sword to deflect it. The three rings continued to attack me, but I deflected it without a scratch. The Tyrant King seemed to get annoyed by every deflects I do. That's when he jumped at me and tried to hit my head using his fists, but I quickly dodged it and he ended up punching the ground instead, causing it to leave a large crater and a few debris flying on the air, and people staggered at the impact. Young Yonghu has activated the Stigma, Tyranny LVL. 0.4 feet. He started to launch himself at me in a faster and rougher pace, while I continued to evade. His three wheels also helped him attack me in every direction where I had openings. But my sword would always follow to deflect his attacks. Why aren't you fighting back? The Tyrant King shouted as he punched and kicked in every possible way to land a hit on me. His eyes looked similar to a madman, but it was clear that he was already a madman. Do I need to? I said casually while I evaded his attacks. He was kicking and punching the air or ground since I always dodge his attacks. And he seemed angrier as I said those words. Young Yonghu has activated the skill, Sky Steps LVL. 0.3 feet. He jumped on the air with great speeds, then gliding to every direction to confuse me as his figure became blurry at his every gliding. What's wrong? Aren't you going to show yourself as the Monster King? He sounded like he was mocking me, but I didn't got offended. And that's right. I am the Monster King, one of the kings or whatever it is in Seoul. It's a long story, but I just got it after parting ways with Kim Dokja and getting a flag from another station. I wasn't exactly a monster yet, but people seem to misunderstood it. I'm still a human after all. He was still gliding above me, while killing the people below who couldn't dodge or stand on his way. I was thinking of ending this now, but he ended up getting crushed by a boulder. Tyrant Smush. I cringed up in disgust when I looked at the Tyrant Smush under that boulder. A man clad in black jumped and landed at the top of the boulder. With a piercing gaze and unsheathed sword, he looked around and his eyes landed on me. His eyes softened and he started to walk towards my direction, but a voice that annoyed him so much made him look towards the other. Kim Dokja, I'll kill you. Yu Jonghyuk growled and started to slash at Kim Dokja. He grabbed a random guy and hid behind him, then its head got severed by Yu Jonghyuk. Unlucky guy. I thought as I looked at the rolling head. Meanwhile Yu Jonghyuk and Kim Dokja continued to argue in a distance. Then I looked back at the head again. Isn't he also a king? Kim Dokja said he was a dragon king or something. I wondered to myself. He is Gu Taesu, the Earth Dragon King, one of the 7 kings of Seoul that the individual, Kim Dokja, said. Great Sage quickly remarked to answer my question. Oh right. I finally remembered what Kim Dokja had said during the capture the flag scenario. He talked about the 7 kings of Seoul, and their rankings from weakest to strongest. Donghoon was also one of them, and I was glad to have him on my side. I saved him from manipulation with the help of Kim Dokja. He didn't trust us at first, but he opened up to me after I massacred the people who used him. Back to the 7 kings of Seoul. Donghoon was the Hermit King of Shadows, Min Jiwon the Beauty King, Cha Sangjeong the Maitreya King, Gu Taesu the Earth Dragon King, who recently just died along with Young Yongho, the Tyrant Smush, the Tyrant King. And the last one and the strongest one of the 7 kings, is none other than my handsome, hot, cold and cool acquaintance named Yu Jonghyuk the Supreme King. You forgot the neutral king, Great Sage flatly muttered. Then that makes it 7, and that is the people called the 7 kings of Seoul. Current number of kings, 6, huh? Didn't the 2 just died? Also Donghoon didn't participated, which means that there are supposed to be Fu. You are now a king, master. Oh, that's right, I forgot. I'm also a king. I laughed awkwardly in my mind, then another question came in. But who's the 6th? It's the individual, Kim Dokja. Oh, So he's a king now. What kind of king is he? Don't tell me he's a squee. Suddenly, a Dokkaebi appeared and transported the kings in open ground, covered with a large barrier that blocks any interference from the outside. I looked around and saw the other remaining kings are present, but I was kind of worried that Kim Dokja wasn't there. But before I could move or do anything, Yu Junghyuk smacked the bald man standing beside me and I jumped in surprise and caution. Yu Junghyuk glanced at me for a second with a pained expression, but he quickly retracted and focused to beat up the bald king. I stared at the scene, then I noticed someone looking at me. I turned around and saw the beauty king. She gasped and took a step back. Then she raised her hands quickly and forfeited. The beauty king, Min Jiwon, has forfeited. It looks like she's still scared of me. I mean, who wouldn't get scared when I literally massacred her enemies in front of her? I thought she was used on seeing blood, but I guess I went too much. You're still scared? I said at the beauty king. There's no way I won't get scared. I don't want to have you feed me my own fingers, you see. Her voice trembled as she answered. She felt a shiver running down her spine after remembering what happened back then. I guess I really did leave some trauma, sorry. I muttered internally while still looking at her. She seemed to get tense, but we switched out focus to the newly arrived person. It was Kim Dokja. Kim Dokja. I screamed at the top of my lungs as I watched him kneeling at the top of the destroyed throne. As if he was accepting his fate that he was going to die. Many stars placed their gaze on that dying person, not satisfied to see his death so early. This is all your fault, the Dokkaebi said while snapping his fingers, and just like that, everyone started to disappear from the scene. You will regret this. Kim Dok, all of my world turned black in just a second, as if I felt a void coming at me again. Recalling a memory that never happened. Rimuru-sama. I jolted awake and gasped for air, taking a few breaths to finally recover from a nauseous sensation. The dark atmosphere that covered this place was too thick, adding the very bad weather that immediately soaked me wet. I looked around the place, scanning its area and met its destroyed houses and corpses lying on the ground. And that's where I finally realized, I was in Tempest. Rain. It filled the whole area with a heavy rain. The raindrops landed loudly at the ground and splashed as it spreaded. The sky roaring its anger and showing its wrath, taking a form of lightning that descended on the land. The whole world seemed so dark and confusing to Rimuru as he took steps towards the misery before him. His eyes widened as he took in the sight that he was seeing. The dry blood on the ripped clothes on the ground, and the corpses of people. His people. The skin of the goblins were supposed to be green, yet why are they brown and gray? The city was supposed to be filled with lights and lively, yet why is it so lonely and dark? The city was supposed to be full of residents, yet why is it so empty? The houses were supposed to be a shelter, but why are they ruined? His people was supposed to greet him with a surprise. But why? Why is no one greeting me? Why aren't they surprising me? Why is no one here to welcome me back home? Those thoughts filled inside Rimuru's head as he continued to move forward. The sound of his steps splashing against the puddles of running water. The rain soaking him as he walked with no umbrella. No shelter. Just alone, walking under the heavy rain. Rimuru continued to take a step forward, while looking at everything, but he decided to avert his gaze and focused in one direction. He didn't blink, nor he wavered, until his sight became blurry. But one step after another, his sight started to change form. The dark scenery turned bright as it was filled with colors and familiar figures came to his blurry sight. Is this a dream? Am I hallucinating? He thought for a second, until he started to hear things. Rimuru-sama. Good morning Rimuru-sama. 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 It made him feel a warm sense of familiarity and love. The voices, and despite his blurry sight, he could tell that it was them. He can hear them, and see them even though not clearly. He smiled warmly as he continued, until his gaze met a few people who were closest to him. His smile widened as he started to run towards them. He could see them waving at him, and calling his name. Excitement and longing swirled inside his heart, and he slowly walked towards them instead of running. He stopped in front and looked at their blurry faces. He couldn't see clearly yet he knows who was who by the colors of their hair and the sound of their voices. Rimuru hesitated to speak as his lips trembled. His whole body was trembling. He couldn't contain himself, but gathered his courage with a deep and heavy sigh. Welcome back, Rimuru-sama. His people greeted him in a lively and enthusiasm. They were all happy to see their master again after a long time. He smiled widely and closed his eyes as he heard them, and without thinking hesitantly, he launched himself to hug them all. He thought that he was going to feel their warmth again. But all of it was for naught. He was met with cold air. Rimuru stumbled in front with no one to hug or lean on, his eyes closing instinctively as he crashed on the puddly ground head first, water splashing as his head got buried on the hard ground. He didn't move, as if there was a heavy weight pulling him down. He just stayed on that position until he picked himself up to kneel and sit down. He just sat there with his face dirty, his eyes devoid of any emotion. He clenched his fists as he finally spoke. "Everyone. How bittersweet. I'm back home," Rimuru finally said in a trembling voice. His eyes with no emotion started to fill with tears, and he didn't and couldn't find the strength to hold them back. Not after he held it in for too long. Tears begun to pour out from his eyes down to his lap. And it poured like the heavy rain. It was all an illusion, he knew from the start, but a part of him was hoping that somehow it would be true. Because he couldn't accept the cruel reality before him. His desire, wishful thinking, and longing resulted to hallucinations. He wished to return home, and it came true, but his wish was met with tragedy. As if the wishes he made was fulfilled by some sort of an evil god. After those years of longing, the master was finally back home. Yet, none of his servants came to welcome him, because all of them were dead. And over the once lively place of Tempest was now in ruins. The master wept. Stage 3 of Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint has been deactivated. Kim Dokja groaned and opened his eyes slowly until his vision was clear. His eyes looking at the dark sky while he laid on the ground. As this, I should have been teleported to a place I know. He sat down and held his head in a slight headache. He looked around the place and found it familiar, like he had been here for as many times he could count. He was on the rooftop of Mino Soft, the company he used to work for. He eventually stood up and walked towards the edge, looking at the scenery below him. Damn it, I was hoping I would end up anywhere but here. A few constellations are excited to hear you say that. The sky suddenly unleashed a thunderous sound and a shade of zigzag light came down to the ground. The weather was really bad due to the scenarios. It was so cold that Kim Dokja shivered slightly. Kim Dokja took a step back away from the edge and looked at the screens popping in front of him. 10 days remaining until the 5th scenario begins. A sub-scenario has been started as a filler. Less than sub-scenario, survival activities greater than category. Sub. Difficulty. C+ clear conditions. Survive in the ruined city for 10 days. You must. 1. Eat 3 times a day. 2. Sleep for 6 hours every night. 3. Pay a survival fee of 500 coins before going to sleep. If you fail to perform any of the 3 conditions, you will be met with a penalty. Time list. 10 days compensation, none failure, death. This is a scenario where the coin event is applied. Asterisk all monsters that appear during this scenario has a chance of dropping coins when defeated. Dash 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 dash. This seems like a nice event to stock up some coins. That overpowered trap must be having fun gaining coins right now. Kim Dokja snorted internally, then his eyes shifted towards the noise below the building he was currently on top of. He could see some people with large cages that is similar to that of a zoo cage. They must be wanderers. Kim Dokja shrugged the thoughts and grabbed his phone to read TWSA. But unfortunately for him, the phone's battery was already empty. In the end, he ended up exploring his used-to-be workplace with the intention to find a portable power bank for his worn-out phone. As much as I hate it, I miss this place a little. He opened a drawer and rummaged the things inside it, hoping to find what he was looking for, but as he did what he was doing, a blinding ray of light made his eyes half closed. He immediately looked at the individual responsible of it. Kim Dokja. Is that you? The individual held a flashlight that was pointed at Kim Dokja's direction as he smiled at the sight of his old colleague. Mr. Yun. Kim Dokja exclaimed and got up from his sitting position. He walked towards the ladder and they ended up having a conversation. It was very horrible. Everyone who was working overtime was placed in the first scenario. Yun showed Kim Dokja around the place as if nothing's wrong, showing its bloody decorations with corpses as display and blood as paintings on the wall. You know what? I killed Mr. Kim. That guy who always give us some hearings got stabbed on the throat by me. Yun smiled hysterically as he stared at his bloodied hands, remembering how it felt to feel satisfied after killing someone out of revenge. Deputy Nim. Kim Dokja stared at the latter with a nonchalant face. My bad, so you're still not used to this? Haha. Yun laughed awkwardly as he guided Kim Dokja outside the building. Then as Kim Dokja took steps outside, the scenery of cages and thugs came to view. Many thug-like men walked around while holding metal pipes and baseball bats. As Yun and Kim Dokja stepped closer, a man looked at them and came over. Yun Seongho SSI, who's the person next to you? He's my colleague. We met each other by coincidence. Yun explained as he introduced Kim Dokja to the man. Is he a wanderer? We don't take any members from other groups. You know that already, right? The man reminded Yun, then walked away with no remaining words. Kim Dokja and Yun stood there with each other. Then a question popped up in Kim Dokja's mind. Who's that person? Kim Dokja asked as he stared the leaving figures back. He's the manager of the coin farm? Ah, so you still don't know, Dokja SSI. A sinister smile crept up on Yun's face as he looked at Kim Dokja. Then, he slowly got closer to Kim Dokja and placed a hand on his shoulder while pointing something with his other hand. Look, Kim Dokja looked at the direction where Yun was pointing it, and he instantly regretted looking at it. The sight of people in cages, beaten up and bloodied while an audience cheered more as they watched them being forced to fight for their own lives. Kim Dokja's eyes widened and his eyes searched the area, clearly shaken about the thought of someone specific being inside of the cages. But he calmed down after remembering that he didn't need to worry about that person, because that person was strong. As Dokja looked around the scene with a neutral expression, a familiar figure suddenly caught his attention. She doesn't look bad, are you sure you didn't do anything to her? A random man talked with another as they stared at the familiar figure that Kim Dokja was looking at. Is that? The familiar figure was inside the cage. She was leaning on the edge as she slept peacefully. Her lashes showing as her hair and jacket soaked wet due to the rain. The plagiarist, Han Suying. Hey, wanna bet who's next? That woman is nice, let's play rock paper scissors for it. As men started to engage in a conversation about the things to do with Han Suying, Kim Dokja broke free from his thoughts and looked at his surroundings, then back at her. That woman will definitely die if I leave her like this. If I let her live, then she'll get in my way. She knows things that I know about ways of survival, but many things have changed from the original story. She is now useless. Wait, what was I thinking? Kim Dokja was struck by his self-realization. He felt somehow horrible for thinking on deciding which one who will live and die based on their usefulness. Yun suddenly appeared behind him and closed their distance, which caught Kim Dokja off guard and broke him from his thoughts. Dokja, if you promise me one thing, I'll give her to you. Yun said with a grin. His face was close to Kim Dokja's shoulder as he leaned on him like they were buddies. What do you mean? Kim Dokja asked as he followed the direction where Yun was pointing it, and it was Han Suying. You belong to a group, right? Introduce me to them. We're preparing to expand our forces, you see. Yun's eyes lowered down on Kim Dokja's waist where his gaze met two swords hanging. You seem to be fairly equipped yourself. I can do what you want. Really? Then in return Yun's eyes widened by surprise. He didn't expect the latter to accept easily. He exclaimed in a happy voice but was cut off before he could even continue. I want you to stop all of this. Kim Dokja's words made Yun's mouth agape. He never expected that from his mouth to come out and he felt confused. What are you saying, Kim Dokja, aren't you enjoying this? Yun's face darkened as he looked straight to Kim Dokja's eyes. His fingers raised sidewards to point at the people who were inside the cages. Look. Remember who they were? They're the ones who called us lab rats, good-for-nothing game testers without any good to offer. Yun's voice trembled slightly due to anger and excitement. The scenery made him feel this way. But now. Look again, they're like rats trapped in the cages. The tables have turned. We gave them the name they used to call us. Aren't you happy? We're also gaining coins just by making them fight with each other. Yun exclaimed with a crazy face. His eyes darkened with full of evil. His words were vile enough to make Kim Dokja curl his hands to fists. Yet, the only thing he did was close his eyes until a sound of sword clanging on the ground as it was dropped by someone. I can't. I really can't do this. A man inside the cage cried as he surrendered. Yun clicked his tongue. A large vein appeared on his forehead that looks like it would explode. Pathetic. Hey. Some constellations are disappointed by the turn of events. A hand suddenly grabbed Yun's shoulders. He turned around to face who it was, and it was Kim Dokja. If it's coins you are after, then there's a better way. Kim Dokja's words made Yun grin. He turned around to face Kim Dokja and asked. Huh? There's more ways to spice things up? The people inside the cages started to tremble. Their eyes widened in fear as they gulped in nervousness about what Kim Dokja meant. At some point, they started crying on what kind of things they will have to go through again. What the constellations really love is. The blade of faith has been activated. In one swing of a sharp blade, the cages broke apart. As this. Everyone was too stunned to move. The cages were easily brought down by one man in one swing of a sword. Yun couldn't believe his eyes either. He thought that his past colleague would be in the same page as him. But the reality did something otherwise. The people who used to be in the cages were freed as the hell that kept them in place was brought down. The man who surrendered earlier crouched down with the others, then stood up slowly to look who was the one behind this. In front of the people, Kim Dokja stood still. His sword hanged on the air as he held it tightly, his hair brushing sideways as the air passed through him. The people who were affiliated with the coin farm started to break in sweat. Their heartbeat raised its rhythm, fear coursing through their veins as they started backing away slowly in one step after another. Want me to further elaborate? Kim Dokja stances himself. His blade clashed with the other cages which made loud sounds. The people from the coin farm started running away, although some of them started yelling and running forward to fight the man who brought their precious paradise to fall. One by one, the cages broke apart. Kim Dokja shifted his attention to the enemies who were running towards him. He smiled as he brought himself forward, his blade cutting the limbs of those who tried to fight him, making them fall on the ground and writhe in pain. My leg. Yun trembled as he forced himself to shout. What are you doing? Kim Dokja. Kim Dokja smiled brightly as he turned around to face his past colleague, that was now his enemy. I'm thanking you for contributing the props for my little play. The constellation, demon-like judge of fire, is happy with your decision. The constellation, prisoner of the golden headband, chuckles at your merciless vengeance. Many constellations who were displeased with the actions of some constellations are satisfied with your actions. You have been sponsored 8,000 coins. Why bother to make a farm when it's easy to gain coins? Kim Dokja said in a mocking tone as he stepped forward. He could see Yun trembling in anger. Why you? Son of. Get him. With one command, the people from the coin farm started rushing towards Kim Dokja with weapons on their hands. The area that was used to be called Coin Farm was turned to a battlefield, started by a cunning man named Kim Dokja. One sword slashed sidewards to Kim Dokja's waist, but he parried it with his own blade. Then pushing it back and kicking the enemy on the stomach to lose their balance. Using his momentum, swiftly avoiding the attacks as he parried the weapons and punching, kicking or even cutting their limbs without killing anyone at all. Kim Dokja looked over his shoulder, watching the sleeping beauty on the ground. He picked her up and the woman opened her eyes like she wasn't asleep at all. What are you doing? Han Suying asked as Kim Dokja carried her like a princess. So you were awake? Yeah. I was just pretending to be passed out so I can stab them when they let their guard down. Kim Dokja's brow raised. He knows this woman was lying. Okay. Then I'll leave you here. He took a step in action to put her down, but Han Suying stopped him. Wait. She couldn't say what she needs to say, because she was too embarrassed to mean it. She was out of health and mana. This is kind of cliché, don't you think so? The hero who saves the beauty in distress. Kim Dokja looked at Han Suying as she spouted words that he couldn't seriously take in. Why are you looking at me like that? I thought you liked clichés. Han Suying asked as she stared at Kim Dokja's face with that expression plastered over his face. You're wrong about two things. Kim Dokja finally spoke as he kicked someone before it could reach towards him. 1. I'm not a hero. You have saved a life of someone of your own species. Your karma point has increased by 1. Current karma points, 14 100ths. Karma points are required to use the effects of Kim Dokja's King of No Killing. It is a point system activated when Kim Dokja saves someone. And 2. You are no beauty. Kim Dokja said too bluntly. That trap is more beautiful than you. In a crowd of thugs, there stood two figures with black hair. One man and a woman. Are they siblings? No. Are they lovers? Maybe. No one would have figured it out if they hadn't read the novel. That is a word from the author. This is so much of a cliché. Han Suying stabbed an invading man, then took a few steps backward until she was back to back with the man known as Kim Dokja. Don't you like this sort of cliché? Kim Dokja talked back while eyeing the enemies that were currently surrounding them. He brought his sword forward in a cautionary stance, in case someone would go crazy and go forward and attack them. Too bad he wasn't allowed to kill. It's not like he doesn't want to, but he needs to stay pure for something. Han Suying sighed before answering. No matter how much I like clichés, this one is kind of overused, don't you think so? Kim Dokja only eyed her from his shoulder, then turned his gaze towards the enemies. Are you trying to be a hypocrite? Kim Dokja chuckled, but that just made Han Suying's eye twitch and grin. Whatever, just finish this story so we can move on to the other one. That declaration turned the coin farm into a bloodbath. Although Kim Dokja avoided killing, the woman didn't hold back and did the finishing blow for him. Kim Dokja was a little grateful that he didn't need to stain his hand, all thanks to Han Suying. The bloodbath turned into a movie marathon for some constellations, and one of those constellations smirked at the scene of red stains on the floor, blood shedding as people cried in agony. The constellation, who likes the color of blood, is smiling at the scene. That message popped up in front of Kim Dokja, and then it gave him shivers as cold sweats ran down his neck. He was almost slashed off by a man, but Han Suying covered him on time. Letting the princess save the ugly duckling. This makes a nice inspiration. Han Suying grinned cheekily and smacked the latter on his shoulders to break him out of his thoughts. Don't go blank all of a sudden, dude. Are you half asleep? Do you want this princess to give you a kiss? Han Suying showed a creepy smile on her face, and that automatically broke Kim Dokja from his thoughts. Shut up, Kim Dokja said before avoiding a sword that was meant to slash his back. He turned around and sent the attempter away with a raise of a leg, making the attempter stay on the air until crashing down in a crowd. A total of 18,000 coins have been obtained. Look, isn't this a very tasty profit? Han Suying said happily as she stared at her own system messages. A taste of victory and gain made her smile to the point where her lips parted to show her teeth. It's a shame that I have to share this with her. Let's just call it a cut for her hard work. Kim Dokja thought to himself while looking at the idiotic appearance of the woman beside him. Haha. I should have known. A man's laugh caught the attention of Kim Dokja and Han Suying. They could see the man was onto ground, panting heavily while looking at Dokja. It turns out the man was Yun, Kim Dokja's ex-colleague. Yun huffed heavy breaths between his swollen cheeks, his hand gripping the blade as it was pointed on the ground. I should have known when I heard those rumors. That was Yun's last words before Han Suying sliced his neck, sending his head on the air then rolling on the ground. What's he talking about? He sure talks a lot for a bit of character. Han Suying wiped the blood off her cheeks as she turned around to look at Dokja. Her eyes were wandering on the man's face as it displayed a pained expression. What's with that expression? Are you sad because I killed him? Han Suying asked. Kim Dokja's eyes widened after he realized his own display of expression. What? Do I look sad? Kim Dokja thought to himself. He tried to find a reason behind his reaction to Yun's death, and then those memories of spending time with him came in. Right. A colleague who used to talk to me is dead. Seriously, constellations don't like too much drama. Just kill them already to gain more coins, Han Suying said and kneeled to grab something from a corpse. Her hands itched to not steal anything useful from them. Kim Dokja smirked and joined her. Both of them didn't have the conscience to leave anything useful, so they searched the corpses for anything they could use. This looks useful. Kim Dokja stripped the dead man and stole his clothes. Han Suying was over there, grabbing the bodies and cradling her hands to search for anything. When she found nothing, she turned around to see the latter dressed up formally. Dash 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 dash. Item. Old gentleman's suit. B-grade armor. A brown suit worn by a gentleman. It may be old, but it's still clean. Dash 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 dash. I swear that you'll end up in hell. Do you have no conscience for stealing a dead man's clothes? You're really heartless, aren't you? Han Suying said with a slight frown, although she was no different. Stop the hypocrisy. If you were in my position and found nice clothing, there's no doubt you'd do the same. Kim Dokja countered back while he fixed his necktie. Han Suying tried to snap back, but it got interrupted by the people's murmur. Both of them looked at the people, seeing the hope in their eyes, as if they were looking at their saviors. The people were inching slowly towards their saviors, Kim Dokja and Han Suying. However, Kim Dokja stopped them with his hand, raising it as a sign to not step closer towards him. He felt pity for the people, but that's the only thing he could do. Pity them. Sorry, but I won't be able to help you from now on. You're on your own from here. The constellation, who uses salvation as propaganda, is disappointed at your words. Those words came out of Kim Dokja's mouth without remorse. It immediately shattered the hope of the people. Their faces turned from hopeful to resentment and despair. Some people teared up in despair, others were filled with resentment, and others just didn't care about their lives anymore. In this world where survival for the fittest was applied, there were people who couldn't survive on their own. With the people's hope and desperation for survival, they know nothing about it at all. Their need for saving was too dependent, but if it's the only one for survival, then who could blame them? They were too pitiful. If only they had met the right person, they would have gained the salvation they needed the most. A salvation without cruelty, havoc, and mess. A salvation where compassion can be expressed. He's still cruel, like always. Does such salvation even exist? You were so cruel to the people. Han Suying muttered as she read the contents of their contract. Can't have the responsibility to save them. I'm not a hero or a protagonist. I'm a reader. Dokja replied back. You should have used your reader ass to save a bunch of people with your knowledge. You could have used your plagiarism ass to save them too, so why didn't you do it? Kim Dokja's words glued Han Suying's mouth. Both of them didn't proceed to argue any further. Here, since it's a contract, I added one more condition. Han Suying handed the contract paper to Kim Dokja and he took it. His eyes were scanning every word of their contract, cautious that this woman might have changed some things he wouldn't notice. But there was no changes, except one that caught his attention. What's this? He read it carefully and narrowed his eyes for a double check. He felt dumbfounded, but he couldn't tell why. That's the most important thing I ask you as a condition. Han Suying looked at the skies and saw the stars above. Then she sighed before looking at Dokja, looking directly into his eyes for some time. Then she finally spoke. Find my brother for me. Drip. Drops of water trickled from the ceiling. The droplet hit Rimuru's eyes, causing them to twitch. His brows furrowed as he slowly opened his eyes, and the soreness in his body made him groan. His golden eyes met in the dark room. Where? He felt confused and nauseous. He looked around, his head moving sideways, but as he did, he felt something restraining his movements. Looking closely, he noticed that a thick tangle of vines encircled him. He attempted to struggle and escape, but the vines also bound his arms, and as if something was taking his strength out of him, his body was weakening. After adjusting his golden irises and pupils to every corner of his eyes, he saw that tiny, vine-like roots had become lodged in his cheeks from his temples. His gaze narrowed until it took him a while to realize he was in this dark room, tied upside down. So that's why I feel nauseous. The vines and roots covering every part of his body gave him a strange feeling. Based on the aura, it appeared that the vines were under the control of someone or something. Great Sage, he called out in his mind, to which it immediately responded. Analyzing. 10%, 34%, 67%, 99%, analysis complete. Rimuru smiled, although it appeared weak on his face. He felt relieved that the Great Sage was still with him, unlike what he had seen in his dream. Where am I? You are currently located in an underground building where the infestation of monsters has occurred. The Great Sage complied with his question. Infestation of what? Rimuru's paw. I wiggled my body to break off the vines that wrapped me whole. But as I did, strength was drained out of me. Should I just burn these vines off my body? I said in annoyance. I recommend using the skill, Black Lightning, to break free and make an opening to escape this place. I nodded at the Great Sage's suggestion and closed my eyes. I stopped my body movements and focused my power. The exclusive skill, Dark Lightning LVL. 3 feet has been activated. Bolts of dark lightning crackled its spark around my vine-wrapped body. The sound intensified as I focused more and more on the skill, then released the energy on a whim. A crackling, chilling sound echoed around the area. The lightning descended from the sky down to this underground building, piercing through every floor until it reached the last floor in underground, where I was. I couldn't brace myself from the impact of my own skill, so I expected it to at least damage me. The lightning finally hit my body, wrapping me in its beam. The scorching heat reached 1000 degrees Celsius, making the area around me melt from its heat and impact. The exclusive skill, Heat Resistance LVL. 3 feet has been activated. Nice save. Even the small particles of debris weren't spared from the dark lightning. For all of it to melt, the ground, the walls, the ceiling, and my skin weren't excluded. My resistance to heat wasn't that much better compared to my past life. I mean, my past life as Rimuru Tempest, not Mikami Satoru. The hellish heat of the lightning burned all of the vines around me from head to toe. I winced as I felt my skin peeling off rapidly, then healing back at the same pace. Due to the intense experience, your skill, Heat Resistance LVL. 3 feet has been increased to LVL. 5 feet. I groaned as I fell off, my head landing on the ground. My body was shaded black, my clothes were destroyed, my legs were shaking, every joint in my body felt like it was burning, and my skin stung. To put it all together, my whole body was a mess. I didn't dare to move, not even a single twitch of a muscle. I should have told Great Sage to recover my pain nullification. Too bad it couldn't be recovered, all because I was in a human body. The human body feels pain because it is human. If I don't feel the pain, then that makes it different. Since I'm a monster, to begin with. Joke, I'm pretty sure I was human beforehand. Escaping from the building won't be that hard, thanks to the escape hole created by the lightning. The exclusive skill, Mimicry LVL, has been activated. A dark outline of wings slowly built itself on my back until it flocked with feathers and manifested its scales, hardening its surface. You have mimicked dragon wings. 2 dark wings that are like those of a dragon, opening and flocking to their full glory as they fully manifested on my back. I could feel it connecting to my skin, down to my bones, like it was a real body part of mine. I didn't want to waste my time admiring myself, because I know I'm, well, impressive? Probably. Majestic would be the right word, Great Sage said, a tad proud. Oh, is this quantum computer robot finally showing its emotions? Did you say something, Great Sage? I teased my own skill, and if you view it from another perspective, I would look like I was talking to myself. If anyone saw me right now, they'd probably think I'm crazy. It's your imagination. Great Sage recoiled back automatically. Sassy bot. Anyway, since I already have the wings, I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I took my time to fool around. A strong aura of animosity has been detected a few kilometers away from us. That immediately caused me to stop singing. What a mood breaker. As much as I wanted to fool around, this feels like a problem I should probably take care of. I should head out now, I said as I hovered my wings above me and prepared to flap them down so I could fly. But the Great Sage stopped me. Notice, your body is nakedly exposed. I recommend wearing clothes. The way this AI said it made me feel like a fool. Ah. No wonder why my sun is hanging. I felt my cheeks burning from embarrassment as I slowly retracted my wings to cover my body. Imagine if I actually flew away with my body naked. That would be a sight to behold. After wearing my new clothes, that were generated by Great Sage, I turned around and looked if it fits. This familiar texture of this silk on my skin, its dominant color of dark blue somehow matched my light blue hair, and the fur on the endings of my sleeves. It was all familiar. Wait. Is this? Whoa. Isn't this the old clothes I wore before I died? I said bluntly after tugging the fur on my sleeves. I summoned my mask and placed it on the side of my head, then summoned my furry scarf and wrapped it around my neck. This brings back memories. I speed my wings above my head and slammed it downwards to soar up high, resulting the dust and air around me to be blown away. I flew upwards through the broken floors, and I could see the infestation of vines and monsters being carried out in every floor I flew through. I got out through the rooftop and hovered around the main source of infestation. A giant flower monster with its roots and vines wrapped around the building. It has a head and teeth, small petals and saliva leaking from its large mouth. It almost looked like a Plantera boss. Should I just burn this place? I said and flickered my fingers, resulting a spark and ignition of a black flame. But before I could do things any further, I sensed a familiar aura a couple miles away from this building, along with the animosity I felt earlier. I could tell that they're fighting. I was curious on why that man is here, but I guess fate really rooted for us. I blew my flames away and ignored the boss monster for now. After that, I followed my instincts and curiosity as it brought me to fly over them. I landed on a nearby building and searched for the occurring battle. But my eyes stopped when I looked at a meteorite. No. Even if I wasn't a mile away, I could tell what it was. It was definitely not a meteorite. A hatching disaster? I furrowed my brows as I squinted my eyes to look closely. Moreover, are those people? What are they doing? Using magic sense. My field of vision and distance increased, and I telescoped my eyes to look at them even from a great distance. The sight was weird, unsettling and horrid. I could see the people kneeling down, praying for something as blood dripped from their faces. They were praying for the disaster. Their faith and mana was being drained with every mumble of prayers they made. Blood trickled down their faces as they exhausted themselves on clinging to a false hope. Humans are desperate for survival, yet they didn't know that they're bringing themselves closer to death. Pathetic. I thought so. Of all the things we could have placed our faith unto, why the thing that could determine your death? With every observations I had on humans, the more I feel less like them, but it reminded me that I was also a pathetic human once. A pathetic human who died a virgin even until now. Before I knew it, I was now treading on the air. I acted on my instinct, and I must save these pathetic people because of it. But before I could make my way towards them, my eyes bore down on the fight occurring near. A woman whose hair was silky white, cherry red lips and gray eyes stood on the ground. Her beauty was worth a lavish of praises, but there was something unsettling about her. Then the second person came to view, a very familiar annoying person. A man clad in black coat while wielding a sword. His ravenous hair was glossy, his jawline was perfect, his lips were in a perfect hue, and his body was majestic. Even if I was in a few miles away, I could still see the small details of his face. Those long lashes that fitted his eyes, those eyes that wore a cold gaze would cause a person's heart to malfunction and stop. His beauty was none like the other, because he was undoubtedly this universe's god's favorite. That annoyingly handsome face was sculpted by the gods themselves. If that woman's beauty earlier was worth a lavish of praises, this man was worth 100 more. Okay, Junghyuk. I give you that. Rimuru's Pav. Dear Zijin and Apito. How are you guys? If I come back to Tempest, I'll bring you a new friend to work with. I jumped off the ground and flew to avoid a stinger. Or an enemy to kill. I glared at the figure below me. Her white hair was flipping through the breeze. Her lips were reddening like blood. She was beautiful, indeed. Beautiful, like blood in the snow. But despite her appearance, her beauty hides the monster within her, and by within her, I meant it literally. Get off the air and fight me on the ground, the white-haired woman said as she sent a glare at me. Am I your subject to command? I replied. The woman tried to say something, but before she could say anything, a sword came towards her neck. Fortunately for her, she dodged it on time and leapt away from the attacker. Her nails grew in height, and their edges were enhanced, making them sharper than a knife. She bared her fangs at the man who attempted to slash her neck, and I watched them in amusement. Well, this is fun. Multiple strikes and thrusts were launched at the woman, but she avoided all of them with precise movements. Her agility and speed kept her unharmed from the attacks, but it looks like her vessel isn't going to last much longer. Unlike the woman, Yu Junghyuk kept attacking with much more precision, his sword curving on the air as he swiftly slashed through it like nothing. But no matter what he did, the woman kept dodging all of his attacks. Want me to help? I offered to Yu Junghyuk as I sat on top of a street light. I swung my legs as it stood on nothing but air. Yu Junghyuk didn't reply and just continued his attacks. He attacked like he was just doing it with no emotions or desires, except for killing. But I could sense it, despite his ferocity, there was a slight hesitation conflicting inside him. It wasn't because he's obvious, but rather because of me being too knowledgeable. You better not. Anyway, normal humans would think that he's a cruel killer who has no mercy. But for me, I'm not normal. I'm not even a human. I'm not entirely sure. There was an invisible turmoil on his face that only I could see. His face was blank as a whiteboard, yet a trace of guilt still could be seen. That alone was enough to make me realize the situation. So she was. I nodded in my own thoughts. They definitely had a past. I don't know why, but that was kind of painful to know. It's not like I'm jealous or sad because they have a past or anything. Your emotions says otherwise. Did I just hear something or was it my imagination? Did you say something, great sage? Nothing. But I heard why. It was your imagination. It was. I tried to shake those thoughts off my mind, when suddenly, Yu Junghyuk went flying on my direction. I immediately avoided his body and grabbed his collar on time. My hands grabbed his scruff like he was a kitten. His body was limp, and it felt like I was holding a toy. What happened to you? I asked him. Yu Junghyuk didn't say anything and just looked at my eyes. What? I asked him because of his stare. Report. The individual, Yu Junghyuk, is exposed to a powerful poison. So that's why he can't talk. I shifted my hands on his body and carried him like a princess. I could see his eyes piercing me and I just smirked. Don't be flustered, baby girl. I'll save you. Cringe, but I like messing with him. I jumped and flapped my wings at the same time, easing the gravity's drag as I levitated. I landed in close proximity. It was enough distance to be considered safe. I placed Junghyuk down, then turned my attention to the woman. You seem rather attentive. Are you lovers? The woman spoke as she walked slowly in my direction. I kept my own guard, setting a protective barrier around Yu Junghyuk's body. If I ever treated you the same, would you also say that we're lovers? I could see veins appearing on her forehead as I taunted her. She clenched her jaw, and wings sprung out from her back, stretching out wide with their insect-like features. Her claws sharpened again, as did her teeth, destroying her beauty replaced with an ugly visage of an insect. I'd be glad to have someone make me feel special, she said with a smile that made my blood run cold. No way, I'm already taken by him. Let's use Yu Junghyuk's existence for a second. Seeing her preparing to pounce, I didn't back down and lifted my own wings, flapping them down to accelerate my movement. Gusts of wind blew out as our forces clashed against each other, drawing an invincible line that shows the difference between our forces. I accumulated power on my sword, bringing it forward and clanged it with her claws. Her speed was not something to be underestimated, it was faster than any vehicle could travel. Just asking, but what type of insect are you? You don't seem like a roach or whatever. She looked like a fly and an ant at the same time, creepy. She launched a streak, but it was in vain. Shut up. I'm no insect, I'm a parasite. I parried it with my sword, resulting in a loud ring and spark when it came into contact with her claws. But she wasn't done yet, she wasn't even alone. As soon as I jumped off from her, a swarm of insect-like humanoids started to attack me. Bugs. I felt my world going slow motion as I observed their disgusting faces coming towards me. It was like a giant insect on the surface of a human's body. Their faces looked like cockroach, and they had thin red wings like a fly. Their numbers were many, but not that great. The exclusive skill, Dark Flames LVL, has been activated. I gathered the flames around my sword, before releasing the energy towards the swarm. It didn't even lasted for too long before all of them burned at the same time. The white-haired woman brought her arms forward to protect her face from the heat, her eyes widening at the hellish sight before her. You insolent, UWI. But before she could react any further, I swung my sword to her direction, causing a havoc of dark flames flying towards her. She was gonna die, for real, and I thought that firing the attack at that speed would be enough to kill her, but it didn't. Before the flames could even reach her spot, she already left. My human eyes couldn't see her movements, but thanks to my monster senses, I still tracked her down. She was flying everywhere, no gusts of wind, but she was gliding at a great speed. She almost caught me off guard, but I was also faster than her. Her claws almost grazed my skin if I hadn't moved. My head could have been sliced open if I hadn't ducked, and my stomach could have been gutted if I didn't jump right on time. Just die, you pest. She yelled in annoyance, and that made me raise my brows. Like, does she know what she is? I'm baffled. She was definitely the fastest otherworlder I've ever encountered, even if I compare her to the ones I've seen back in my world. But the other worlders back then were human, and this one was clearly not like them. Hey, where are you from? I asked randomly, which actually pissed her off, considering how she's ripping my clothes bit by bit. A world you wouldn't know, she said, her voice trembling in anger as she glided like she was one with the wind. I stopped moving for a bit, purposely slowing my movements, and as expected, she took the moment to strike my head. I'm from another world too. I faced her at the right time, then grabbing her wrists before her claws could even pierce me. I could see her eyes widening in fear, her ugly features becoming more ugly as I gripped her tight to the point she couldn't move or fly away. The stigma, gluttony LVL.3 feet has been activated. It's quite rude to steal someone's body without permission, don't you think so, Miss Antinous? Vortex of black smoke started to wrap around her body as it absorbed all of the parasites. If I was told that it was okay to kill her, I'd eat her whole. But that body. The owner of that body seems to matter that much to him. During the fight, telepathy net. Dokja. Don't kill her, okay? She's valuable. Rimuru. Do you like her? Dokja. Why do you sound insecure? Rimuru. I'm just asking. She's pretty gorgeous though. Dokja. Don't be jealous, I only have my eyes on you. Rimuru. As if I'd get jealous. Oh. Look. Both of your faces oddly match. During the woman's insect transformation. Dokja. Do I look like an insect? Rimuru. Kinda. And also. This parasite just called me a pest. Can you believe that? Dokja. Yes, pretty much. She was just stating facts. You do look like a pest. Rimuru. How come so? Dokja. Rimuru tempest Rimuru. Ha ha ha, that's very funny. Present time Dokja's jokes were bothering me. He got me a little good. It was too distracting to think of. I almost forgot I was sucking off this parasite queen out of this woman's body. Rimuru's paw I ate, and I meant that literally. The insect queen's body vanished alongside the black smoke from my gluttony skill. Even the ground on which she stood a few minutes ago was also devoured. I could feel the power surging within my veins once I absorbed her body. It was like nutrients of familiar energy running alongside my blood, then traveling down to my system. For the first time, I felt good. Eating strong opponents must be the food for my stigma. I just closed my eyes in delight, and my hands curled into fists until my veins showed up. You have successfully absorbed the magical energy from the insect queen's body. The great sage's voice echoed in the back of my mind. Then, when I felt like it was over, I opened my eyes. The insect queen's body and soul have been isolated in the stomach. The individual can be retrieved back and forth by master's will. So she wasn't dead? That's good. I'll give her to Gilyung once we see each other again. I miss those guys. The first person I laid my eyes onto was no one. I didn't even see a single life in my sight. Just pure destruction and utter mess. Although I could sense a few lifeforms around here. By the way, that insect was finger-licking good. I said that and smirked before walking away with a hum. The constellation, who likes to brag about their techniques, is looking at you with disgust. The constellation, who likes to brag about their techniques, has revealed their modifier. The constellation, architect of a 100-floor maze, is bothered by your actions. Another one has joined the channel, huh? Am I really that famous now? Wait, where's the red carpet? I'm in the mood to walk on one. Unexpectedly, there was indeed a red carpet. The problem is that it wasn't a carpet, it was a pool of blood. Seriously. I was just joking. I said in a bit of a creeped-out voice. Was that really a coincidence though? But that thought was pushed aside once I heard a cough nearby. I quickly looked for the source and found Junghyuk, leaning on the same wall where I left him. You look horrible, I said as I walked towards him. He just sent me a glare, and he was still scary even though his mouth was about to vomit or something. I didn't want to argue with him, so I carried his body like a princess. Don't complain. Okay. You're supposed to carry me like this, but our positions ended up getting switched. I laughed at my own words, and then, as if the moment allowed it, I saw a bright shooting star. Wow. Isn't this romantic? I looked at Junghyuk, but he was already unconscious. I want to poke his cheeks right now, but I refrained from letting my intrusive thoughts win. I smiled at the sight of a prince being carried by my arms. Then I looked back at the shooting star above. A shooting star, huh? A new disaster has been added to the scenario. I hope the others are okay. Pav end. Kim Dokja's POV. I felt buckets of cold sweat wash over me as I stared at the notification screen. A new disaster has been added to the scenario. It was a surprise. Even Han Suying's smug face was frowning. Leikaon was also wary of the slightest change in the scenario. I gritted my teeth and looked upon the newly added disaster, which took the form of a shooting star, which was actually a meteor. This is a bad omen. Leikaon mumbled and frowned with worry. Han Suying looked at me with a face that said, "What the heck is this?" But even I myself don't have an answer to that question. I gave her a look filled with uncertainty and anxiousness, and she quickly understood it but was in disbelief. I quickly grabbed my phone and started scrolling down, my eyes filling their purpose to read, and even my very existence acted upon its sole purpose. To read without missing anything. That was the purpose of the sole reader of this story. POV end. 5 a.m., Japan, Tokyo Dome. The bright shooting star that was actually a meteor was clear even within this dome. Incarnations looked upon the star that was falling, and one of them was a woman who was considered to be one of the strongest in their dome. A shooting star? No, that must be a disaster. She stopped assessing the star, knowing it would bring destruction to wherever it will land. The stigma, mathematician LVL.6 feet, has been activated. She looked at the star again and her stigma began to take action. Her eyes were still, but her vision was filled with lines, numbers, variables, and even words. As she achieved the result, she closed her eyes before sighing. Lucky for us, it won't land in Japan, and if my stigma is correct, it will land in Korea. The murmurs of incarnations around her was loud. It was all about the shooting star that threatened them. Back in the past, people would be excited to see shooting stars. It would give them hope to wish for something they wanted. However, the present wasn't the same. Even the smallest normal thing could turn out to be out of this world. The shooting star that was wished upon by billions of people is now feared to either grant their wishes or bring destruction to their realm. Then suddenly, "Master, Master," a man's voice called out to her. Her eyes twitched at the voracious sound, but she kept her thread of patience from snapping. "Shoji, stop yelling." The man's enthusiastic face dropped into an embarrassed smile. Shoji scratched the back of his head due to the embarrassment before facing his master once more. "It's just that Izumi Hiroki wanted to see you, and he's actually behind me right now." She looked at Shoji, and then at the people behind him. Izumi Hiroki, the strongest incarnation of Japan Dome, or at least that's what they thought. "Didn't I tell you not to bring any strangers?" She shot a piercing glare at her disciple, and he instantly whistled his way out of there. But before Shoji could leave, he looked at Izumi Hiroki with enthusiasm. "I'm Michio Shoji, pleased to meet you, Izumi-san. Bye." Those were his last words before he departed from the room. The woman who was the master of Shoji facepalmed herself at his idiocy. Then, after going back to reality, she stood up and faced the so-called strongest incarnation of Japan. Izumi Hiroki, who was just silent, suddenly smiled at her. "Sorry for the inconvenience. I must have really bothered you, huh?" Izumi spoke with a gentle and careful voice. "It's okay. Just get straight to the point." But unlike him, she was cold and straightforward. She didn't have time to chit-chat since she doesn't have time anyway. Worrying about her country was already enough to put stress on her beauty. Now, depending on his intentions, he could either be helpful or a burden. "Haha. You're really straightforward, like what they say, miss. Get to the point." There was a long silence between them. Guilt was starting to eat her once she realized her tone. "I was worrying on why I have so many enemies, and here I was, showing this attitude." She face-palmed herself in the back of her mind, but the silence was cut off once the latter spoke up. "Okay, but will you let us introduce ourselves properly, at least? It won't hurt," Izumi requested with a warm smile. She couldn't deny him, so she nodded. "Great, my name is Izumi Hiroki. It's nice to meet you, Miss Sword Saint." Izumi held out his hands for a handshake, and the latter took his hand, a faint smile playing on her face. "It's nice to meet you too, Izumi-san. You don't have to call me with that title anyway. My name is Hinata. Hinata Sakaguchi."